Hey everyone, I'm Channing McCorston, the Container Guy. We noticed there's a ton of traction with our new exterior studding brackets. This system allows you to stud the exterior of a container, and we've matched that with our method of cutting a standard height shipping container in half, taking each half and putting it on the sides of a high cube to give us a 312 pitched roof. This method of making double wides allows you to have vertical posts if you need them, only 4 feet from the wall and not right dead center in the middle of your room. Follow along as you watch us struggle to cut containers in half, learn a whole bunch of lessons that we're going to take into account, and come up with an easier, better way of doing things. Hope you'll learn something. Prior to bringing this container inside of our shop, the guys had it outside on the modification beams where they could safely crawl underneath the container and cut all of the cross members. And that allows them to not have to do that the last step where this whole thing's cut apart. And now how do you get in there? So we have cut all the cross members underneath this can safely. And then once we bring it in here, now we can take our wood cutting skill saw and make a nice cut through the wood plywood. We set it to about 1 inch because the floor is 1 1/8 inches, and then we come back again with our metal cutting skill saw and we set that as deep as we can go, and we go through all of the cross members. And now if you look here, the two halves of this container, the flooring anyway, they're separated. So now the only thing left to separate these halves is to cut through the headers, the footers, down the roof sheeting and the sidewalls. But before we just go and do that, we learned last time, we've done this twice before, same job, just one after another, and both times we learned something. And so cutting it in half without supporting them, we found that the roof corrugations would sag inwards, and then when they sagged inwards, the header on either end, I guess, they ended up bowing inwards slightly, and so we had to push out, which is very difficult to do to get these things nice and square again. And we feel that once we separate these halves, hopefully, I guess we'll look and watch and be able to check the camera footage afterwards, but we'll see how much this deflects now and whether they stay relatively rigid. So once we get them cut in half and spread them apart, we can just quickly throw these posts in, and we don't have to be doing all this crazy cross measuring or anything. So excited to see that. We'll get out of their way and let them start cutting. After we cut through the roof corrugations and end wall corrugations, the final step is just to cut the headers and footers, and these two halves are separated. As we mentioned in our previous video, this specific job is going underground. So these halves need the ISO corner castings as secure lift points when they're handling this thing. These are not needed if you're to use this as a container home above ground, and they add a lot of complication with all the cutting of the HSS and the welding and preheating the steel. And so in this instance, I feel we could come up with a method that uses folded sheet metal that will eliminate a ton of the welding process and really simplify the procedure. We did really like how the footer and header worked out with this kit. We had to plane the wood to make sure that there was no ledge there as a tripping hazard when the two halves were finished up. The pin and dowel in the footer worked awesome for getting the two floor sections to auto align as the two halves came together. We have a drip cap for the header that gets the water to shed to either side, and these bolt style bridge fittings work great as a tool to bring the two halves together. And then with the header, we learned that if we connect the two pieces together and lift them up with our crane, that keeps everything nice and straight and gives us a nicer finished product rather than trying to work with each individual piece at once. We're finding the heat produced from welding adds to the bowing and the misalignment of the system, and so again, if we can come up with a more weldless way to to achieve the same goal, that's going to definitely help the product. We have cut these containers in half 6 different times now, and we're still kind of banging our head against the wall. And so I think the moral of the story here is that it isn't yet a do-it-yourself style of modification, but it does have merit, and we want to continue to explore this option and see if we can come up with an easier, better way. What I feel would be the ultimate goal, if this is the right way of making double wide containers, is getting a design done in China that is ready to be split once it arrives here in Canada and can handle cargo over the ocean on its voyage here to keep the cost of the container down. That ultimately is my job to figure out, so give me a year or so and maybe I'll make her happen. If you enjoyed this video, please help us out, give it a like. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications, and as always, check us out at tcg.ca. Hope you learned something.